What's up? That's good. We're live. So, I'm gonna keep this keyboard trimmer. Just gonna do the last thing. Alright. Just be cozy, get comfortable. I've got my part here. So I think what I'm gonna do now, seeing as I covered liquid masking and it was not effective in this context, but I was also going to show you seam line removal. I'm just wondering what I should show you first. I think I'm going to show you seam line removal first because that will have to be done before, and then only afterwards will I be able to mask off that area. Alright, so let me go ahead and show that to you. Now, having a little bit of water is always useful in that context. Although personally, sanding dry is also okay, and I often do sand dry. I'm going to show you the end result of seam line removal, and you can see for yourself that you practically can't see the seam line anymore. I use some putty here also, so you can kind of get an idea there. Maybe I should just use this camera. So you see how like there was a seam line right down the middle, but you can't really see it anymore. Certainly you can't feel it. Main thing is to get rid of the texture, and what that will do is that it will give you a nice smooth continuous surface. The two parts have become seamlessly joined. Okay, so that's what we're going for. So we have a nice even smooth surface to paint on, and I can even also show you what it looks like once it's painted. This actually has a seam all the way down the center of the part, but you can't really see it. I didn't do a perfect job because you can sort of see where the seam is, but I mean, it's my very first kit, and I'm happy with the imperfect seam line removal that I did manage to do on that one. That's it's pretty decent, so I'm okay. I'm alright with it. So okay, so I'm carefully, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to start pretty much sanding down here, just like that, carefully. I just got an email notification that there was a copyright claim on one of my videos. I have a feeling that YouTube's autoplay has put me from no copyright music into some copyrighted music, and that's exactly what's happened. Yeah. Alright, let's get back to something. No copyright here. Alright. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do what JP did and just download the ones that I like to listen to, and then just use that instead of YouTube's autoplay, which drifts me into copyright land. So whoever sent that copyright whatever thing, sorry, that was YouTube autoplay. Okay, so the whole story between only sand in one direction and don't sand in two directions. To be very honest with you, I did it both ways and I couldn't really tell the difference, but maybe there is a difference. I don't know. Sometimes you kind of need to sand in both directions to get it nice and properly evened out. Okay, this is gonna need some putty for sure, because it's the way that the two parts are joining up is such that it's not perfectly seamless. Yeah, though it feels smooth, it isn't actually. It's totally perfect. But mind you, keep in mind that a lot of this will be easier to spot once the part has been primed, because priming reveals a lot of the surface issues that can be corrected with some putty and in some cases a little bit of contact cement. Although now that I have putty, I don't need to keep trying to use contact cement as a filler. Sometimes I can be lazy about like getting certain tools, I guess. My Q-tips are there. I'm gonna go grab some Q-tips. Cup of water, some clean water. Water is good. Okay. I need a lot, just a little bit, to essentially. Well, you know what? I'm gonna get some rubbing alcohol to properly clean up the surface, so I don't have to wash it. I don't think I'm going to be washing any parts with that have been painted. Although, you know what? Even alcohol is going to possibly affect the paint that's on it if I use that to clean up the parts. So I think I'll just use water. Whatever. No need to go gung-ho on something like that. So there we go. I'm just kind of rubbing off the seam here so that you can kind of... And just drying it up to get some of that dust off there, so I can kind of get a feel for it. Okay. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try using some putty on this here. Yeah. Yeah, there's clearly still a seam there. I'm going to go ahead and get some putty and use that to try to fill that. Get a nice smooth, flat surface that I can use to paint on. Okay, this can also be diluted with lacquer thinner. So what I wonder is if I can dilute it down maybe, and then kind of drip it in there similarly to how I would with your Panaline accent. wouldn't want it dripping into this seam though, although there is liquid mask in there, so it probably won't. Maybe I should use it just full strength first and see how that works, and if I'm not satisfied, I'll turk it from there. Let's try it the old school way first, the original method. I'll take it from there. Come on, pretty good. Just this part that I'm doing right now is what completely turned me off real grades. The parts are even smaller than this on real grades. It's like it's a whole thing. So you gotta respect people that do like hardcore custom painting with all kinds of masking and all this stuff on real grades, because the part size is so small that it makes it quite challenging. Okay, so you can see here the difference between this hard plastic and this the orange plastic and the gray plastic. Basically, the orange plastic, the seam line is essentially pretty much gone, and on the gray part, not so much. It's still there. So it shows you a decent contrast of what happens when you use that. Sometimes it works perfectly, and sometimes not. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use this right now. Here we go. Bada bing. Ah. Okay, so we've got some putty here. Just gonna use a wee bit because I won't be needing much for what I'm doing. Now, apparently, this putty is sandable and all that good stuff, so that's gonna be just wonderful. Now, I'm not really sure what you're supposed to use to apply this. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to apply it with a Q-tip, so let me go ahead and try it. I think a Q-tip should be okay. It's nice and clean and dry. All that sanding dust is off of there now. Yeah, it's going on just fine with a Q-tip. Wow. Oh, great, actually. It's getting right into that crevice, the trouble area. Very cool. I hope it's not getting like bits of cotton swab in there with it though. Just to compare, let me see if coffee stirring stick would be a wiser choice at this point. I don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, totally. All you need is a coffee stirring spoon to apply this putty, and it goes in pretty much the same way without any of the potential drawbacks of getting bits of cotton in your putty, which I'm sure you don't want. Okay, so this stuff is sandable. However, what happens is that it has to dry. Now you can probably see where it's kind of collecting inside that little crevasse there, sort of filling in that gap that was in there before. I don't know if the camera wants to focus anytime before the next election, but there we go. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. This stuff does have quite a funk to it. Like it's pretty smelly stuff. So what I would do is I would keep it here in the fume hood, so that we don't have any issues with that. So since we're on seam line removal, a good thing to show you at this point would be the effect of what it's going to give when this is all smoothed out. So let me go ahead and jump right in and do that for you. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime this. Okay. So what I'm going to do, basically what I'm doing here is I'm using two different kinds of primer. I had to think about it for a while there because what I want to do is I was very happy with the effect that I got from using this really coarse Krylon automotive primer that gave me the effect of having like a kind of a roughened up, you know, steel surface. And it's interesting because I was watching Plamo Tsukuro, which is a Japanese program of master builders that are using some advanced techniques to create the sort of creations that you would see in you know, modeling magazines like Hobby Japan, for example. And wouldn't you know it, they do that actually. They will use not necessarily an automotive primer. That's kind of what I like to call a ghetto grade technique that Devin and I kind of discovered, that you could actually use that and get a nice sandy grainy kind of effect, which is great if that's what you want, but if it's not what you want, you'll be pissed. So there it is. But so what they actually did was they used this putty stuff that I'm using now, and they pretty much thinned it down and painted the putty onto the surface, if you can believe it, and that gave it like this really like grungy kind of like, you know, a tank from the 1940s kind of look to it, which was really striking. Like, whoa, you don't see a gunpla like that every day. And so that's how it's done. But the thing is that I have chosen not to do the thrusters in that material because I want it to be like a stark offset where the thrusters are like a nice like crisp steel, but it's just like the armor that's like, you know, kind of rough and stuff like that. So. Go ahead and slice this so it's nice and I have a feeling my blade has lost its point now, so I will have to change blades very soon. Makes it issues in this blade. So you can see how masking in and of itself is a fairly time-consuming affair. I would imagine that with skill comes speed, to some degree. I guess it depends like how into the little details you are, and this sort of nonsense, this masking tiny like 4mm thrusters, really does make the case for detail up parts. Like you don't actually have to go through all this if you just get some detail up parts, but not all the detail up parts are available for all the kits, and that's something I'm going to be looking into in a future video, because I myself have yet to sort of fully wrap my head around the sort of multitude of detail parts that are available, and some of them are made by some dodgy manufacturers, and some of them are official Bandai detail up parts, and so there's like a whole, it's a lot of doubt there, so I'm kind of taking my sweet time deciding what direction I want to go in with the whole detail up thing. So, yeah. My blades have apparently come loose inside this box. That's not very good. Oops. I think this is too big for that one, so that'll be no. Yeah, I'm in dire need of blades, so today, if I don't remember, Devin remember to tell me to go get some blades at Udisco. Or at Lou's if we have time. So, Lou, if you're watching, salutations. There's more blades here. This is ridiculous. So one of the blade containers that I had in here. Yeah, okay, I'm officially done with dollar store blades. Dollar store blades are, it's not so much that they're not sharp, they're sharp, but it's the stupid container that they come in that comes loose. So then the blades come out of that container, and then they go flying all over your box, and then they're probably no longer as sharp as they once were. So, voila. Although I suppose I could have taped it shut, but who would have thought to do that? Right? You'd think they'd be smart enough to make that one feels pretty sharp, I guess. I've sharpened this one I've been using for a while now, so let's see. Let us see what we can do. Masking is something that really develops a lot of patience. It's a good thing to do. Really, you're going to be a lot more patient of a human once you've masked a gunpla. Also, you get a little bit better at sort of estimating the width of the tape that you're going to need, whether you'll need a 3mm slice or 4mm or whatever. You know, if you want to be able to guesstimate it properly. Or you can measure it with one of those pincer measurement tools. I found one for $10 on Amazon or something, or Deal Extreme or some random site with like Chinese tools and stuff. So, not complaining. Yeah, now it's sharp. It's slicing through the tape in one shot, basically. So that's what you want. Yeah, this sort of precision masking is quite a proper challenge, let me tell you. I wonder if it'd be easier to overshoot the edges on both edges and then go in for the kill, if you will. Alright. So, in other news, I'm now using OBS, my former nemesis. I swore that I would never use OBS again because I was so happy with XSplit, and OBS had been such a total pain to set up when I was trying to record audio and video at the same time with Star Conflict. It turns out that they may have fixed the issue that I was having in the latest patch. I think it's a November 2016 patch, and I just had no issues with it this time. So, yeah. I would have continued to use XSplit. It's just that I think they kind of limit you in terms of there's a certain quota that you can only do a certain amount of live streaming, a certain number of live streams a day or something like that, and I thought, well, let me see if XSplit has that restriction, and it doesn't seem to, so Viva open source software. I know Kriggs is a big fan of open source software, where everybody gets to work for free. Isn't that right, Kriggs? So ladies, if you want a man in your life who's been gruelingly trained to be infinitely patient, find someone who builds Gunpla models. The kind of nonsense we have to put up with is quite something. But yeah, that's the joy of Gunpla. It's not easy. It's challenging. It takes a lot of time. But when you get it right, it's sweet. Ooh. Nice. Okay. Good, good. Sehr gut. Alright. See if you can get the central thruster here. I wonder if my chair is actually good for my posture right now, because I feel like I'm always having my shoulders hunched up or something. If it's just me, or maybe it's too low. The height can't be adjusted. I've tried. For the life of me, I haven't figured out how to do that. I totally get why they use those head visors, basically, because when you're dealing with parts that are just a few millimeters across, and it's late at night, and your eyes are starting to get a little tired. It's a little difficult to maintain your visual focus, basically. Your optical focus. Ooh, nice and clean break there. Alright, see? It takes time. It takes time to get good results. And in this case, yeah. So, and even this isn't perfect. There's going to be some possibly visible imperfections, but I mean, I'm still a newbie. I'm allowed to make imperfections. It's looking 2 down, 3 to go. I think I'm going to take a little break and get myself a matcha that could use a boost.